I'm going to start the recording here real quick. Just you're all catching a little bit of green room talk because Jane just popped on with us. She had a hard 4 o'clock or 7 o'clock or wherever you are in the time zone world. So Jane is popping in from one to another. So sorry we're a couple minutes late, but Jane, and like Rachel was saying, how hopefully your last little thing that you were doing went well.
Oh, it was great. I actually do this monthly thing with a bunch of Massachusetts libraries. One librarian and I chat about historical fiction novels that we're excited about that are coming out in the next couple months. And now we have like 300 people register for every event, which is
amazing.
it's awesome. Yeah, yeah. Mina Jane from the Ashland Public Library started it, and we started it like 4 or 5 months ago. And yeah, it's a thing, and it's only 30 minutes, which is like in and out. And but yeah, it's been good. And then we send out a list of like books we've talked about and other people have talked about in the chat. And yeah, it's great. It's really
love
fun.
that. And it looks like Brenda was there watching it because she said it went well with Jane. She says she loves it.
Now,
So Brenda jumped in too.
Is that exclusive to people in Massachusetts, or can anyone join this? Because I think we should tell people to like join this.
Yeah, anyone can join it. In fact, I'll send you both the link afterwards, but anyone can register and they'll get invitations every month. And yeah, anyone. So now we have like it was just New England, like Massachusetts libraries, but now it's like been spreading. We've got some Canadians. We got like yeah, it's been great. Yeah, yay!
I love that. We actually do a thing called tea time, and so I see some people who are here do that too. Nice. On Mondays, we have our sales rep come in and we talk about new books that are coming that week. So we do it weekly. It's really fun.
Awesome.
It's
so fun.
really fun to like just talk books, and we started it in the pandemic. We've been doing it for 5.5 years now, every Monday. And there for a while, I think this year was the first year I've actually missed some Mondays. I mean, we did it on Christmas because Christmas fell on a Monday one year.
Wow.
I mean, it was like,
I was
hardcore. I was like, we're not going to miss a Monday. But then it's like, we missed a Monday.
Miss a Monday. Brenda, I also live in Canada.
There you go. Well, speaking of, okay, Jane, where are you? So, Rachel, if you're new to us, Rachel does a lot of these wonderful interviews with us and is calling in from
Toronto, where it's 1,000,000 degrees and we haven't had rain in over 2 months, and it's starting to drive me nuts.
Ooh. Oh wow!
Like it's hot and humid and dry and hot and humid and dry, and I'm already in October. Like it's like I'm done with this.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's brutal. Yeah.
Jane, where are you calling in from, Jane?
So I am 7 miles north of Boston.
Okay.
Yeah, if you know Boston, I'm like the last stop on the Orange Line on the T.
I know Boston. Boston is it's just Boston is my favorite U.S. city by far.
Thank you.
It's a good city.
By far. I love it so much.
Well, anybody that wants to tell us in the chat where you're calling from, we always love to see that too. Yeah. Since we are starting late, Rachel, make sure you don't look at the clock and quit early because we're starting a little later than normal.
Yeah, no, I think we still have a buffer for some questions.
Yes, we definitely will have time for questions, but don't cut yourself off short because we are starting a little bit later today. So with that, couple just quick housekeeping things, then I'm going to introduce these ladies and let them start the conversation because that's what you're all here for. Where I'm going to put into the chat how to order The Women of Arlington Hall by Jane. So yay. So that'll be in the chat. If you're in San Diego, there's lovely cover. We're in San Diego. We're Warwicks. We've been in business since 1896. La Jolla area.
Publishers Weekly book.
Publishers Weekly Store of the Year last year. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. It's a big deal to us in the industry. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So hi, Sherry from Solana Beach. You're right up the street from us. So if you're in the San Diego area, we'd love you to pop by, pick up Jane's book, pick up Rachel's book, or anything else that fancies your eye. Any books. We can also ship, but we can only unfortunately ship to the lower 48.
And so if you're gonna if you're in Canada and you want to order things, there are 1,000,000 indie bookstores I can recommend to you here. All Julie and I want people to do is make sure that they're supporting their indies.
Just support an indie. It's close to, if you have a favorite indie, we're good with that. So So that's that. That's my little PSA for that. After Rachel and Jane are done talking, and if you have any questions, just go ahead if you're thinking of them down at the bottom of your screen. I know we've all used Zoom for 5 years now, but at the bottom of your screen is the Q&A button. Go ahead and pop those questions in there. I'll come back and read those off to Jane and Rachel. So with that, let's get these lovely ladies introduced, and I will go away for a little bit. So Jane Healey is the best-selling author of the Saturday Evening Girls Club, Good Night from Paris, The Secret Stealers, and The Beantown Girls. She is also the host of the Historical Happy Hour podcast that she just talked about, where she interviews fellow historical fiction authors. Oh no, this might be something a little different.
It's a little different. Yeah.
But this is different. As I was reading this, it's like, no, this is different from one. So she has a podcast too, where you actually interview historical fiction authors about their latest novels. She's a graduate of the University of New Hampshire and Northeastern University. As she says, she lives in Boston with her husband, 2 daughters, a cat, and a dog. And like I said earlier, she's here to talk about her new book, The Women of Arlington Hall. And joining her is our wonderful Rachel McMillan. Rachel, who is absolutely Warwick's one of our favorite interviewers when it comes to doing interviews. We just adore Rachel. But she has another job. She is also an author of over 20 novels, including the best-selling The London Restoration and The Mozart Code and the upcoming Operation Scarlet. She has also co-written The Liberty Scarf and The Castle Keepers with Amy Runyon and Janelle Sizelski. Her works of nonfiction include Dream Plan Go, and she also has an upcoming book called An Enemy of Eternity, The Life of Christopher Wren. She lives, like she said, she lives in Toronto, where she works as a literary agent and always planning her next trip to Vienna. So with that, ladies, we have a Vienna, Virginia here.
Yay! That's a beautiful place. Close enough.
I think Rachel might be talking about the other Vienna.
The Austrian one, but
sorry, hey. Carla, but that's, yeah.
I love all the Viennas everywhere.
Exactly. Have a good conversation. We'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you so much. And Jane, your agent is Canadian, Carly Waters, which I always think is so awesome, who I believe lives in Ottawa. It's just so great that, if anyone is ever watching this and has, aspirations of maybe querying agents sometime, becoming a novelist, please do know that borders don't matter when this happens. I represent so many authors who live in America. One of my publishers for my novels is in America. The one for my Christopher Wren work is in London, UK. It's a big, wide world. And it's part of the reason that Jane and I can talk tonight, even though we're in different countries.
Right.
And I've set a few books in Boston, partly because I wanted to continually write off research trips. Boston's about an hour-and-a-half flight from Toronto. Haven't been there recently, just taking a little bit of a break from the Boston trips for the moment, but I will get back there. And I love that while so many of us are just deciding whether or not we want to be going to certain places, I can always go there in your books. And so you haven't always, obviously this one isn't set in Boston, but you seem to also really love the world of DC. You seem to really love the world of Arlington. How important is it for you to feel an affinity with the setting or the city or the place that you're writing when you decide you're
package? And I'm sure you can relate to this, Rachel. I've been obviously doing some book talks with the book just coming out, and you have to really be passionate about the project, about the topic, about the setting, about the storyline. You have to be passionate about it because first of all, you're going to live with it for a long time, but also because readers can tell. Like, readers are really, really smart. They know, like, if you're not feeling it, I feel like they can feel that in the writing. So yeah, that's all really important for sure.
And you need to be able to bring us to where you're writing about. And obviously you've done some Paris, you've done Virginia, you've done DC. And I just think that you have such a wonderful way of transporting us. I feel that you're a very cinematic writer, meaning I can see the film in my head playing while I'm reading your books. I'm mad that Beantown Girls is not a limited series yet. Like, where is that? I will find can we stop having the same 5 shows and just give the budget to Beantown Girls? So when you're writing and when you're crafting, do you see it as a film in your mind as well?
I love that you said that. Thank you so much. That's because I always say it's like the hardest part of writing for me is getting the movie in my mind onto the page, right? Like it's like and that is like it's the longest distance getting that down. But yeah, I think about it and I didn't realize that not all writers think that way or write that way, but yeah, definitely that's the way I think about it.
And yeah, and then it's like, okay, the movie's in my head. I've got this. Oh, I have to come up with words to describe the movie. So,
Yeah.
do you start with a really thorough outline, or do you have sequences and scenes you know you need to build up to? How do you approach when you obviously have to balance this incredible history with pacing and plot and romance? I love the romance in this book, so that we have the historical knowledge, we have what you're trying to say with the book, but within a package that's very readable. How do you approach that?
So yeah, that's an excellent question too. So this book was originally inspired by an article I read in 2018 from Smithsonian Magazine
Yes.
by Liza Mundy, who is she's a brilliant nonfiction author, historian. And she interviewed this woman, Angeline Nanny. She was 99 years old at the time. And she was one of the last female code breakers who worked on this team called the Venona Project. And their mission was breaking the Russians' unbreakable code and tracking down Russian spies in the United States. And I read that and I was just captivated. But I'm sure you can relate. Like, I couldn't find my way into the story for a while. I mean, like, part of it is because like code breaking is dense, and the Russian spy apparatus is dense. And how do you distill that into a story that people won't be bored by the code breaking, or confused by the spy apparatus? So I'm really like a kind of a maniacal outliner, and so I do a ton of research up front, and then I kind of map it out chapter by chapter, scene by scene, the events that have to occur in the scene, like from beginning to end. And that's not to say I don't like pivot sometimes or rework things as I go, but I really find that it's almost like that outline is like a super messy first draft, by the time I've kind of mapped it all out. So yeah, because this was a lot of history and complex history, and I just wanted to make sure that I got it right. And I always like, I mean, one of the things I always like put notes to myself, like what moves the story, what moves the narrative, like how's the plotting working? Is this holding together? And is it, because at the end of the day, yes, it's historical fiction, but you want to entertain the reader and inspire the reader and make the reader feel things. And so that is always in the back of my mind while I'm figuring it out.
And I think that what is interesting is that yes, we can't have we can't have PhDs in absolutely everything, and that's really hard with historical fiction, because I think the best we can do is attempt to provide the bridge or the door that will open possibilities for people to want to read more. And it's interesting what you said about the very dense world of cryptoanalysis and of the code breaking, because I did a few books that had a really strong Bletchley Park. I've spent so much time at Bletchley Park doing the code breaking stuff, and I'm not that smart of a person, and I don't have that side of the brain. And it was to create people who are smarter than because they're so
I hear you.
At this. And one thing that I think our mutual friend Kate Quinn once told me is that it's not our job to solve enigma. It's our job to put people in the room, to have the smell of the coffee, to have Kat doing what she does without solving without you having to solve any unbreakable codes. And that really let me off the hook, because I'm like, I'm not smart enough to do this, but the character has to be. And Kat is a very assured and very smart voice. So you had this idea, you read this amazing article in the Smithsonian, and you're one of many women who are really, really focusing on this period in America in a way that I don't think we often know about. I mean, there was a Susan Elia McNeill, who's a favorite writer of mine. She wrote a book
Mm,
about Hollywood spies, about Hitler in
yes.
Hollywood, about
Mm,
this is, I felt the same way. We think about code breaking, we think about how influential it was during the Second World War, but I don't know how often we think about it in America in the post-war period. And I think
mhm.
that is something that must have been really fascinating because it's not that far away from where we're living now. And to think about these women who had such an incredible role. So you had this unique idea, you had this portion of history, and then did you automatically have Kat show up and say, I am the vessel in which this story would be told? How did that work? Because she is a force. I love her so much.
Oh, thank you. Oh, if only it was that easy. I'm not like, I don't know, like people talk about like, oh, the muse and like
The
all this, like,
muse, and it's like,
and like, oh, no, no. Yeah, I mean, characters just talking to me. No, like that is not, I wish that was my process. That is not my process. No, I just, I knew, I wanted to create, I wanted to create a woman who didn't really have a place in the world. She came from this working class background in Cambridge, which is my family background, and in Cambridge, Massachusetts. But then so she didn't relate to any of the girls in her high school who were all getting married right after high school and having babies and having families. She went to Radcliffe because she was super smart, but then she couldn't relate to any of the women there because they were all from the upper class, and that is a whole code and language of its own with the private schools and the
yeah,
networks in Newport, Rhode Island. So I wanted to create this character that didn't really find her place until she got to Arlington Hall. And that's where she found her people and her passion and her mission in life, and also her first like real group of friends that felt like family. That was kind of Kat's origin story.
that
It's like,
I love
yeah,
that. Like the island of misfit toys for all of these
yes,
women who are square pegs in round holes. And one of the things that I think you do really well when you're writing women is not projecting our modern sensibilities on them. Kat is
right.
very much a forward-thinking woman, but you can't impress a 21st century thinking woman. She still is very much a product of her environment and her time period. And so
Mm-hmm.
though she's very strong, she is so within the context of the period that you're writing. And I find you do that so well in all of your books. And this book in
Thank you.
particular, for any book clubs out there, would make a great companion book to The Secret Stealers, which prominently features the OSS. Did any of your previous research spill into Arlington Hall? Were you able to recycle anything or even the mindset because it has a similar kind of espionage infusion? Or was it, oh, this is a completely different beast?
Oh, yeah, only a little bit from the Secret Stealers because the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, really morphed into this what became the CIA. So
Yeah,
I kind of understood the origin story of the CIA, but from that, but other than that, not too much overlap. Although because the book starts in 1947, it was nice to have kind of a base of like what was happening at the end of the war in World War II in general. Like that, like having
yeah.
that kind of base to jump off of was helpful as well.
And of course, it's not that different fashion wise or, technology wise, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And, Kat being a real spitfire of intelligence, the crypto-analysis angle, she's very much the smart, the archetype of the smartest woman in the room. How did you, and this is just a selfish Rachel romance question, because everybody here knows that I am a diehard romantic. How did you find, how did you create the person who would best counterbalance this strong person?
um, Jonathan Dardis.
Love
How
him.
did I create? Yeah, me too.
Drawing
So
hearts around his name right now.
yeah, so how did I create him? So my last book was Goodnight from Paris, and that was
Yes.
biographical fiction about Drew Layton Tartier, a Hollywood actress who ended up part of the underground network in France, getting Allied flyers out during the war. And it was that I found that book very difficult to write because it's biographical fiction. I couldn't color outside the lines. I was saying like I
Yeah.
couldn't I could, and the ending was kind of bittersweet, and her story was kind of bittersweet. And I just like, when I finished that one, I'm like, okay, I want a big like Hollywood story the next time out. Like I want to like do a, kind of will they or won't they romance. I want a group
Yeah.
of friends. I want like high stakes. And so I decided to go with the kind of enemies to possible lovers,
Yeah.
rivals to lovers thing. And so, but someone who and so someone who drove Cat crazy, but also she respected because he was smart, but also they had similar backgrounds and in more ways than she realized, and like, all those little elements. And obviously like a Gregory Peck looked like a young Gregory Peck. If you look at the old pictures of Gregory
Love
Peck,
it.
he was super hot.
Oh, he's super hot. Love him.
Yes.
And I think that, I was fascinated by the KGB code book, the Russian spies living in America, and having that romance to counterbalance that world humanizes, especially what in the post-war years people were trying to rebuild. I mean, we think about the archetype of the American dream of soldiers coming home from the war, of what they are fighting for. And in this, it wasn't fighting in like at the front fighting Saving Private Ryan, like it was a different kind of war. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just found that interesting, as well as the many major real life historical players with cameos. Herbert Hoover, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, to name a few. And of course, I thought back to Goodnight from Paris because that was your biographical book. Did that give you the foundation needed in order to infuse real life personages into the world of Arlington Hall?
Yeah, and I think it was important with Arlington Hall to pull in some real life characters that were involved. So the project, the Russian section, the code breakers that were involved, these women, it was called the Venona Project, and it was run by this Meredith Gartner, who was the head of it, who was this genius code breaker who is like revered still in cryptology history for the United States. He spoke like a dozen languages, just
Wow.
a total polyglot. And then the head of the FBI, who became very involved in the Venona Project because the FBI had to launch investigations and track down these spies, was Robert Lamphere. And he was kind of, Meredith Gartner was kind of definitely what you described today as someone who was on the spectrum, and brilliant, but did not really like dealing with people. He did not suffer fools. He had many quirks, and very much an academic. And then Robert Lamphere from the FBI walks in, and he's this like good-looking, flirtatious ex-athlete, like schmoozer, and it's like the odd couple. And they weren't high up in the organization, I should say. They weren't high up in where they were at in their careers, and they had this ragtag team of FBI agents, ragtag team of code breakers, and they did they changed history. This little group, and it started with this odd couple of Robert and Meredith, and there's a couple of books written about them. And I was like, you can't have the Venona Project or a book about Arlington Hall at that time without having Meredith Garner and Robert Lamphere. So I had to have them in the story.
That's so neat. And did you find that you were able to, how do you balance the integrity of presenting these historical personages with their having to suit the story you're telling? Was that something you had to think about? Okay, I want to have these people because everyone needs to know who they are, but at the end of the day, this is a novel and they are serving me. I am not serving them. Was that something you have to think of when the same with the Paris book? In one way, it can be nice. My friend Bryn Turnbull always talks about when she did biographical fiction, there's one fun thing about it, and that is there is a beginning, middle, and end. You don't have to make things up. But
Right.
the tough part is honoring these people. So did you just have to be like, I'm going to let this go. I'm going to do my best and I am going to wait for the inevitable male Goodreads 1-star from a guy who, because there's always one.
Always at least one. Yeah, at least.
Did you just have to make peace with it? Like, I'm doing my best, because that has to be a very a magnanimous task when you talk about how amazing these people are.
I think about that. I thought about that a lot, and I still stress about that. I'm sure you do too. Like, it just, but there was a couple thoughts on that. One is, and this is not name dropping, but I had Kristen Hanna on my podcast, and of course she's amazing, and she's so amazing. And she said something once about, like, when we were talking about writing advice, and she said, it may not be the exact specific truth, but as long as it has the essence of the truth to this person's story, as long as you capture that essence of it, then you're okay. Like, because it is fiction. And also another, at Historical Novel Society, someone on a panel gave the advice that, like, your author's note is your best friend when you're writing historical fiction. And so I did talk about, in my author's note is like really long for this one, but
I loved it though.
Thank you. I started writing the author's note when I was writing the book because I knew I'd forget stuff, and I was like, and yeah, I wanted to make sure people understood. Like, I really hope I honored these men and these women. Most of the women are composites or inspired by the actual female code breakers, but you want to get as close to the historical fact as you can, but you're, at the end of the day, like you said, this is a novel. You're telling a story that's meant to also entertain. So yeah, I sweat that stuff all the time.
Oh,
I'm still sweating it.
To the point where people have noticed this when my books, I actually, a few books ago, have asked my publisher, and they have done it. My author's note is at the beginning. And it's almost like a mea culpa for, you can read, I try not to spoil too much, but I say, this is a historical note for you on why I do this, so that you can't say, you changed this, or this was 2 months off. Yes, it's 2 months off because I needed my characters to be here, because this is about my characters. And you had a fascinating historical note, but you also had a really interesting epigraph quote. And it did, without getting too into the weeds, you can't help but read things right now and see them through the lens and through the film of a lot of things that are happening in the world right now, a lot of global tensions, and a lot of global tensions always seem to be the US and Russia. It just seems to, I mean, this week especially talks about meetings. It's a huge deal. And yet this quote is from 1802. 1802, everyone. This is how long we've been talking about these two superpowers together. There are, at the present time, two great nations in the world, the Russians and the Americans. Their starting point is different, and their courses are two the same, yet each of them seems marked out by the will of heaven to sway the destinies of half the globe. And I think, for better or worse, or whether you look at great in a positive or pejorative light, it was really interesting that, yes, this is still happening, and it happens through history, and it's happening now. As a foreigner, I would say, yes, we feel that the US and Russia sway half the globe. And I wonder if, as a writer of historical fiction, having the hindsight, the privilege of hindsight, and knowing how the Cold War, and living in a time where a lot of things are shifting, does that add to the burden of what you're trying to do? Are you aware of, gosh, this is so relevant always? Or do you try to take yourself out of it? And I realize that's a really big question. I had to find a way. I'm like, okay, please give us a dissertation on this. That quote, I was like, whoa, that's quite a quote.
It is, right? And I can't even remember where I found it, to be honest. I love epigraphs though. I've always loved them, even in like my research papers in college. Like, I love that. And it just struck me because it was 1802. I was like, that tells you everything, really. Like, history echoes and it rhymes. And yeah, I did feel that when I was writing this, about getting that aspect of that time period of the Russian American history, that early days of the Cold War, when we were entering a new type of war, when Soviets were no longer our allies. I wanted to get that right. I wanted to get what it was to be in a new atomic era with the atomic bomb threat looming over the world,
There's
after
just
Nagasaki and
so
Hiroshima.
much. Yeah.
That was so important to me. Yeah, I definitely feel that. I think, yeah.
It's just so much history. And I feel in some way we are living through another one of those
Yes.
zeitgeist moments that people are going to write about in textbooks as things shift yet again. And I just 1802, I mean, America was what, six, like not that old.
Not that
My
old.
math is
Yeah.
bad, but not that old.
Not that old.
Just for the world to recognize that it was such a magnificent juggernaut of a place. And I really find that you take these big ideas and you take the code breaking and you break it down so that readers, you never talk down to readers, and yet you provide us with an accessible entry point, especially through these well-developed characters. So that's just my fangirl gush. I have, my first book of yours was Beantown Girls, and then I couldn't help but notice how your entire life is spent supporting authors in the historical fiction community. It is just like, my heart just swells like the Grinch at the like, girl, 3 times. And I did want to know, because you're a voracious reader of historical fiction, you obviously have so many friends and fans in that world. When you're reading it, does it ever shape how you approach your work? Because I find I'm always inspired without, emulating people. I'm always inspired by like, oh, I want to try this. What a cool way into this. Do you have moments where you can think, oh, I've wanted to try this because so-and-so pulled this off, or I want to see if I can play with this playground because so-and-so did this? How do you keep inspired without letting someone else's voice take over, I should say?
I think that's such an excellent question. I don't know about you. I try not to, because of the podcast, I'm reading historical fiction all the time. And thank you for those kind words. Thank you so, so much. I've always one of the things when I got into this, novel writing, I was like, you got to lift everyone up, each other up, right? This is a hard industry. And it's like, you have to be a good literary citizen.
There's no competition.
No competition.
There's no room.
I think about that all the time, and I hope I try to live that. And so I appreciate you saying that. And this, I think we're really lucky, Rachel. I feel like I know you so well already, even though the first time we're talking.
I know.
It's such a fun and supportive community. There's so many wonderful authors I now call friends. So in terms of what I learned, thinking about a couple books I've recently read that I loved. Marjan Kamali, The Lion Women of Tehran.
I've heard that one is fantastic.
She's beautiful. She's a local. She lives in Lexington. She lives pretty close by, and she's just a beautiful, beautiful writer, and so thoughtful in her structure and her character development. And I just get so inspired by that type of writing. It makes you want to up your game. And another one, right? Another one recently, and this was a debut, and I had her on the podcast, and I was like, bow down. It was so good. Carissa Chen, Homeseeking. I don't know if you've read that.
I haven't read that one yet.
Yes, and it's amazing. She starts it it's from two characters' perspectives, and one, she starts it when the character is very old, and the other character, she starts it when the character is very young, and she kind of weaves it in so that I can't even.
That's
so
brilliant.
Good. And it works. I could not, I don't know how she did it, but it's brilliant. It's
I love
really,
those.
really good.
And I think it's important, some people would say, well, don't you read historical fiction and then you just get envious? No, it fires me up. It's like,
it does.
I want to try this. And I think that that's part of the brilliance of everyone writing in such because we do see a lot of people writing very similar things. And there's always that moment oh my gosh, I'm doing this and somebody else is doing it. But you realize readers want to read 18,000 books about seamstresses in Paris. They do. Or Coco Chanel dresses. There are again and again, we keep going to it because everybody brings such a different perspective to it. And, one of the things I will say, while you're thinking about getting Arlington Hall, everybody, make sure that you also read Erica Roebuck's books. Erica is Erika. Robuk, because she, again, another amazing supporter of the historical fiction community, but
She is.
also spends a lot of time at the Spy Museum. She just has the same passion for uncovering these really interesting portions of US history that feature extraordinary women fighting wars with their intelligence, not just intelligence, copyright, James Bond type, but intelligence. They are smart people. And it's something you do really well. And I've been really, really excited to see how well this book is doing. You are an auto-buy, as the kids say, author of favorite author of mine. Really want to support anyone who writes Boston and other places. I've spent a lot, I've always been a history geek, and I've been fortunate to spend a lot of time in DC and in the Virginia area. And so to have Arlington, I'm like, okay, I can see this. But if you haven't been fortunate enough to go there, this book definitely takes you there and hopefully will inspire you to read a little bit more about this time period. I'm going to bring Julie back on so she can field some questions with, Julie, Jane's so smart. Isn't she smart?
Oh my God, it's so much fun listening to you guys. I always love these interviews. I learn so much.
Back at you, Rachel.
Rachel always does a great job too. I love, Jane, that you love The Lion Women of Tehran. That's one of our owners' favorite books. We're still it just popped onto our bestseller list again last week. We do a top 10 bestseller every week. And so
I always love seeing the range of things on that bestseller.
Isn't it funny?
Because I'm finding more and more this is something that's so wonderful. As obviously I love historical fiction and church architecture and lots of nerdy things, but I also just really love romance and the way that we have normalized being loud and proud about romance and romance taking up the New York Times bestseller list and people not hiding it on the subway. And that Warwick's bestsellers are often these deep thought-provoking things, and then romance.
Carly Fortune will pop on there.
Another Canadian. But some illustrated cover with somebody by a lake and some guy. I just love it. It's awesome.
We run the gambit.
Yep.
As all bookstores should. There's readers for every novel.
Absolutely. One of our favorites that popped on, it hasn't been on in a while now though, and I won't be able to pronounce his name because it's a French name and I'm not even going to try and butcher it. But The Anomaly.
I've heard of that one. I heard it's really good.
You need to read it. He's got a new book coming out, but read The Anomaly. If you want something that's completely different, totally different genre, and can't really
What's that book we did from that British author about the guy who couldn't stop eating during the Napoleonic War? Do you remember that one?
Oh yes. Oh my God, that was so good.
Where it's I have never read anything like that. It was something.
Something about food.
Wild.
So
the way that the authors just have, and there's no time. I think you're probably this way, Jane. So much of my reading time is commandeered by all of my jobs that. It's really precious to be able to and endorsements. I do a lot of cover quotes and stuff. Clients keep writing books. The nerve to pay my bills. But nowadays I'm very protective of my personal reading time because research, right? Research books are fascinating, but there is, I think, for Operation Scarlet, which is my 1940s Paris book coming out eventually. It's coming out. I read something like 60 plus books for that because Paris is a city I visited, but I have never written it before. And I've written lots of World War II, but never that place. It just, you can almost go too far. I could spend the rest of my life reading for just one book. I'm sure.
Even though it's fiction, people will still get you if you're not. If
you read an entire book for one sentence that gets cut and edits, and it's always readers see the tip of the iceberg. There's that meme that has the little tip of the iceberg and then all of it, and then it's always one guy will say,
always. Yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, and I love that you had, because Kristen Hanna's one of our favorite. I mean, Kristen and I go way back. And she's we actually hosted her. Imagine, put yourself in a day when Kristen Hanna had like 20 people show up at an
When
event.
Kristen Hanna was not Kristen Hanna yet.
Yeah, and we've been supporting her from the very beginning. And
those are the stories that I love, because she didn't always write history. You know, we all started somewhere.
Right. And she's still the same Kristen Hanna, which is what I love about her. I love that. You know, from the time back.
There's no such thing as an overnight success in this business. No. Anytime someone says so overnight, even, you know, I like to think about Emily Henry. Right. She wrote YA.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
She was a YA author.
Mm-hmm. But I love that Kristen told you about the author note too, because I love in both of you using that, because those are, yes, you're writing fiction. Everybody should know that and shouldn't be like, nailing in like they do. But it does help us readers, because I'm not a writer at all. I'm definitely a reader. It does help us to know, okay, what was real? What was, what did you make up?
Especially the fascinating stuff that people think we would make up. Right. Like, no, this is an actual thing, which I always find so exciting, to be like, no, this was the coolest thing I learned, and now you're all going to learn about it because I thought it was so cool.
Yeah, and that's what I love about your author's notes. Okay, everybody, if you have any last minute questions, we're going to be wrapping up here pretty soon.
Because Jane is probably exhausted after all this Zooming.
Exactly, but we're so glad that she came on. But I wanted to just comment super quickly, Rachel, you're assuming we're going to have textbooks in the future to talk about this stuff. So I'm just saying that as an American.
Oh, yes. I'm going through, I have weeks where things change, but I'm choosing this week. You know, I think it's because I've had some amazing conversations with authors where reading and books are inherently a political act of resistance, no matter what you read. And to have, I've been working with an author in New Orleans who's just amazing, doing some editing about how this is how she is fighting against some of the things that she feels need to be changed. She's doing it through fiction. And some people would say, well, that no, it doesn't. If you look back through history, where do we find politics in war and peace?
Some very good truths are told through fiction.
Yeah, so I think that I'm being optimistic right now that even if they're not formal textbooks, there is an imprint of the human experience through all Twitter, threads, books, romance, Arlington Hall. It all speaks to what we're trying to preserve. So I'm having optimistic, Rachel. I mean, next week I might be like hiding in a under my hoodie, Rachel.
Well, so speaking of, let's talk about real quickly, Rachel, where people can follow you. I know we talked about a couple things happening with you. So just give us a quick wrap up on what you want to tell people.
So Twitter is usually where I'm still on there, partly because I find the writing community really likes when I talk about agenting and authoring and that kind of thing, to try and decode the enigma of publishing. So Rach K. Mick, RACHKMC, everywhere. It's also my Instagram handle. Instagram is where I usually share what I'm reading, and also a lot of bunnies, because I love bunnies. And then I'm on Threads, but basically Rach K. Mick everywhere, RACHKMC. I will eventually have a book called Operations. I mean, I have a framed cover of it. It's just taken a little bit longer because sometimes books do. And I really want to I just couldn't phone it in. There's many times when I was like, just phone it in. And I'm like, it means too much to me. So
I get it.
That's what Jane, so, when you first talked, Jane, at the very beginning, it's like, people can tell.
People can tell.
Yeah.
And I want them to love this. And then obviously I have finished, I finished one round of edits on my biography of Sir Christopher Wren.
Amazing.
Which came out of a novel. Jane, an editor, read London Restoration, was like, this girl is a nerd about Christopher Wren. Let's have her write a biography. And that was an amazing way to use my historical fiction research skills.
Yes.
But that's where you can't make anything up.
No, that's true. And it's like, there's going to be one guy.
There's going to be that guy.
I know. Let's call him Steve. There's always a Steve out there.
Yeah, we need to come up with a name for the guys. They've got Karen. What's the guy's name?
Yeah.
Chad.
I don't know.
Steve with 8 numbers after his name on Twitter is going to pick something apart.
And Jane, I don't know, how do you share titles of books y'all mentioned? Like The Anomaly. I'll try and pop it into the chat here real quick for you, Renee. if I can find it really quickly while Jane's telling us. Jane, did you talk to, I was listening in the background, but I was doing something. I got distracted for a second. Did you talk about what you're working on next?
Oh,
Even though this just came out?
What are you? Yes. You had 5 minutes to yourself.
Yeah,
what
5
are you
minutes.
writing?
What's coming?
Oh my gosh. Carly just asked me my age at the same thing today. And I was like,
Give me a break.
I am circling some proposal ideas and like going down research rabbit holes, but I haven't, like, one hasn't percolated to the top yet. I've got to figure it out. And I like some external pressure. Deadlines are good for me. So I'm going to tell Carly to put me on on notice.
It's hard though. It's hard to know where to go.
It is hard. And Rachel, I just have to give a shout out to you because, like, you wear so many hats. You're so prolific yourself. Like, you're so amazing on social media too. That's how I got to know you. Like your advice and your thoughts. And I love everything you do. So I'm so honored to be on here with you. Thank you so much.
That's so nice. Thanks.
And we feel the same way, Jane, because it's just like, she's just amazing in what she does and the time she gives. And I always love these interviews. They're always just amazing. So,
yeah, you're fabulous. You're such a good interviewer. Amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
so another thing, Jane, give another shout out to that podcast that people, or whatever it is that you do at the libraries. What is that called again?
Okay. So I do Historical Happy Hour podcast on my own, and that you can download wherever you listen to podcasts, Historical Happy Hour YouTube channel. But then through the Ashland Public Library, I do like a historical fiction highlights. It's the second Tuesday of every month at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. And I'm not sure I can find the link right now while we're on this, but I can send you both the link after. I don't know if you have a newsletter you want to share it with or anything like that.
You can do that.
And I can post it on my social media as well. I always post the next day when it comes out so people can find out more information. But it's really fun. I actually shouted out Erica Roebuck's new book, The Last Assignment, on this one. Yeah,
I have a copy that I just can't. I'm always behind, but she is another fabulous person. Oh, there's so many of them.
Person.
So with that, what is your social media? What's the best way to what would be the best one for people to get that info at?
Yeah. So social media at Healey Jane, Healey, at Healey Jane on Instagram, Jane Healey Books on Facebook. Although I'm mostly on Instagram, I do a little bit of TikTok. My website has all my events, and I have a mailing list where I send out invitations to the live historical happy hours. I'm going to try to do those once a month moving forward, and then do some recorded ones as well. So if you sign up for my mailing list, you'll get invitations to the live events. Reese Bowen is the next one on September 4th.
I've been reading her since like her British Mysteries 20,000 years ago. Like, I
love her.
I love when people you follow them and they become different things. It's pretty cool. But Jane,
I love sending people to websites, because that's usually, and truly, people sign up for people's email lists, because that's where you really get the heart of everything that's happening. So
also, publishers want us to have them, and they actually vote for more contracts and books for authors, because before a book goes to the final committee, I see this with clients. Oh, what are their social numbers? Oh, how many people are on the Substack? Jane knows this. We get asked.
It all matters. So just sign up. It's easy to do. Yep. So Jane, your website is, I'm assuming, just janehealey.com?
Yes. Healey. Yep.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, both of you, thank you.
This was so fun.
Super fun.
And
it was
Julie,
great meeting you, Jane.
We're Lost Baker of Vienna with Sharon Kurtzman in a few weeks, right?
Yeah, just a couple weeks.
Oh, Jane, I love that book. I love it.
Oh, so good. Yes, I learned it. It was so good.
She's so good.
She's delightful. This is her debut. I met her at a writer's retreat in Nantucket last fall, and she's so nice. And it's her family history, which makes it so poignant.
It's not just somebody's. I was lucky. She was in Toronto, and so we hung out, and I just got to ask her all the questions in the world.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And it's not just her family. Like, I know people say based on family. No, this is her mother. It's
her mom. Yeah, exactly. She's second generation, first generation Holocaust. Yeah.
Vienna, everybody, which everyone knows is kind of my jam.
That's right. Yeah.
So
I'm just finding the link real quick to pop it into the
I think it's the 28th that we're doing Lost Baker. And that one I'm really excited about because I was really moved by that book. And again,
so
you know, you're going to read it and think, wow, this is a debut, but no debut is actually the author's first book.
Yeah, very few.
Yeah, she will tell you that too. Yeah, that's right.
All right, so that's in there. We'll see you on the 28th. Register for that. Rachel, Jane, thank you again for your time.
Thanks so much, Julie. Thanks, Jane. It was so nice to meet you virtually.
You too. Yes, Rachel, so nice to finally meet you. Like I said, I feel like I know you already. Thank you for everything. Thank you for all your support. Thank you, Julie, too. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. So lovely to meet you.
Have a great night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.